What is the cloud? Well, there's actually a very simple answer to that, but I'll give you that in a second. I think the more important question we want to start off with is what is Amazon.com doing there? I mean, how do you go from online bookseller to cloud computing metropolis? I mean, monster presence that Amazon Web Services has. Well, that's what we're going to unpack in this nugget. We'll look at how Amazon.com went there and then describe why that matters to you. We'll look at infrastructure as a service and then compare what if you were to do this yourself versus Amazon Web Services and let you pick the better path. I love telling the story on how Amazon.com became Amazon Web Services because it's such a tale of sowing and reaping. Like what you put into something is what you get out of it. So here's how it goes. Amazon.com is established for more than a decade. So keyword there, established. As in, Amazon Web Services is a product that spun out of what Amazon.com had already become, and I'll re-emphasize that more and more as we go through this series. Now, this second bullet, I hesitated to even put that in there because as I read that. It says, okay, they created an e-commerce platform that drove an excellent performance, reliability, quality, and security. Where would you expect to see a bullet like that? Like, where would you expect to see like a sales brochure, right? Like you're signing up for something, and they're like, sign up now, excellent performance, reliability. I mean, those words have become so cliche that I almost want to just say stop. Stop and read them. So when you think excellent performance, that doesn't just happen. I mean, you don't just go buy a big server and say, oh, well, now I've got excellent performance. Not when you're thinking on the scale of Amazon Web Services. I mean, reliability. Okay, Amazon.com, if there's one site that you can go to that you always know, it's like, Google. I'll say Google is the other one. You're like, okay, I'm testing to see if my internet connection is ready. I'm going to go to google.com or I'm going to go to amazon.com. Why? Because I know they're always up. And I know if I can't open that web page, something's wrong with my internet connection because I've produced such faith in amazon.com or google.com that I'm like, well, they're never down. It must be something with me, right? How do you get there? You don't just, you're not just like, well, let's be reliable, guys. Let's do our reliability dance. Da, 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 da. I mean, you put gobs and gobs of money and servers and design and well thought out architecture into that. Now, so you see where I'm going with this, right? I mean, the rest, quality, security, making sure that, oh my goodness, I can't even fathom the amount of security that has to go into Amazon.com, thinking of how many credit cards are there, how many people store their credit. I mean, I'm right in there. I'm like, buy it now. I don't even have to type my credit card in. And how many people are coming at Amazon to try and get that stuff out of there? Come on, that's a huge amount of security and thought that goes in there. So what I'm saying here is Amazon invested heavily in their infrastructure, and you see where this is going, right? Their thinking was, okay, we've invested more than a decade of engineers, of designs, of physical infrastructures, of servers, of switches, of routers, of fire. We put all this stuff together, and all of a sudden somebody's like, you know what? and sometimes I wonder if some Amazon.com engineer is like, I just want to host my website here because it's so amazing. And so he hosted his website, and someone saw it and is like, you know what? That's a pretty good idea. Yeah, I wonder if we can start hosting other people's websites here and stuff like that. So that's where this thinking evolved from. So I want to make sure I emphasize this. This is straight from Amazon.com CTO, and he said Amazon Web Services isn't something where, and this is the big myth, is that Amazon.com grew and they had extra capacity. It's kind of like, oh, we've got some leftover stuff. Let's create Amazon Web Services to sell our leftover server capacity and things like that. That's not its design. As a matter of fact, I was reading a statement from him, and he said, if we were to do that, it would have been exhausted. Like our extra capacity would have been gone within 4 months of announcing Amazon Web Services. Like it grew that fast. So Amazon Web Services was designed as its own business. Now let's discover what that business is, as in, what is Amazon Web Services? How do I even answer that question? That's such a huge question right there that I don't think there is a simple answer, but I'm going to give you my best shot at it, right? Amazon Web Services is a grouping of best practice, well-designed IT templates, like information technology templates that you can use to build services in the cloud. Did you get that? I know you're like, huh? What do you say? Let me say it again, and then I'll break it down. Amazon Web Services is a grouping of best practice, well-designed information technology or IT templates, allowing you to build services in the cloud. What does that mean? So, if I were a car manufacturer, right? Think of it this way: are there some common components to cars? Yes, right. So if you're going to build a car, if you're a car manufacturer, you need some tires. Now I'm in an area of non-expertise, right? You're going to need a bumper for your car and a fender, and you're going to need a body for your car. You see what you're going to need windows. Got to have those windows for your car. This is like a VW bus I'm building here, right? So you get so there's these common components that every car has. That you know what? There's no one car manufacturer that makes them all because they realize that there's companies better equipped to make tires than them. For example, let's take I'll just say Dodge. You know, United States. Well, I always think of them as a truck company, but they make cars. But we'll just say Dodge. You know, Dodge might say, you know what? It doesn't make sense for us to manufacture our own tires because there's companies that specialize in it and they make millions of tires. Why not just buy some tires from them and put them on our car? Maybe they'll private label them or something as Dodge tires. But you get the idea, right? So IT services has become somewhat commoditized. As in, now this is not. I know some of you are like, really? No, that's not a picture of Amazon Web Services. That's a picture of a typical data center. I've been in those. I actually am in those right now. I have a business that I run out of a data center here in Phoenix, Arizona, and it doesn't quite look like that, but similar to that. And you start finding there's common things that every business needs, and my mind is just like, poof, just when I ask this question of what is Amazon Web Service, I mean, you could go everywhere with it. So let's just say each one of these racks, they're probably not because they look similar, but each one of these racks were a different customer. So this is Nabisco, right, selling their Fig Newtons, and this is Twizzler selling licorice, and having a Twizzler website online where you can play licorice games. I don't know where these companies are coming from. And then this is Kellogg's, making cereal. Well, each one of these businesses, if you've got your own data center, is now responsible to provide all of these common components. You see them right here. All of these common components for their organization. So Kellogg's would have to go buy some switches. It's funny. I'm looking here. I'm like, I don't need. Oh, network equipment. There we go. Some switches and routers and firewalls. And my expertise, my background is heavy in the networking side of things, so that's immediately where I gravitate towards. Every company will have to bring some kind of power or get some power from the data center. Every company is going to have internet connectivity, so they bring in internet connections into their rack that they pay for from this data center. Every company is going to have to bring in servers. That's what these things are right here, in the rack, so that they have CPU, memory utilization, software that's running to provide the resources to run the Kellogg's.com website. Every company, you get the point right here. Every single one of these things, every company needs an IT engineer, somebody that's going to come and know how to put all this together. And I'll tell you, most of the time it's more than one. It's very rare that you find an individual who knows how to do networking services, switches, routers, firewalls, who knows how to install a server physically and logically, installing a Windows platform, a Linux-based platform, knows how to do development, knows how to do security, best practice. I mean, usually you're not going to find. Let me clear this off. You're not going to find all of this stuff in one person. If you did, he has a cape, you call him Superman, and he flies around, and he makes a huge salary because he has so much expertise in all of these areas. So what Amazon Web Services has done is templated all of this stuff, and that's what they call infrastructure as a service. You don't have to worry about the switches and the routers and the blah, 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 everything that I just mentioned right there. I compare this to building your own post office. I mean, think about it this way. Amazon Web Services is kind of like building your own post office. And let's say you've got this package and you need to send it across the country. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, so let's say I'm sending it to Detroit, Michigan, right? I could put that package in my car, get in the car, and drive across the entire country to Detroit, Michigan. It'd take a couple days, day and night driving. Get there, walk up to the premise, and put the thing down, and I would feel awesome. I'd be like, I delivered this package to its destination the entire way. I am responsible for it. That was awesome. But do most of us do that? No. What do? We take it to the post office. We pay the guy, we'll say $30, $30, to say send that to Detroit because good grief, you've got the infrastructure. I mean, would it cost me $30 to drive it there? No, it's going to cost me, I don't know, $550.32. I don't know, but whatever gas, blah 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 hotels, to get it there. Even though I would feel good about getting it there, and I would know it got there. Most of us are all good relying on that $30 post office drop off because they've got the infrastructure that's doing it anyway. Okay, pause there. Think about what I just said. They've got the infrastructure that's doing it anyway. What if Amazon.com produced a structure that could be set up in such a way that it's so well done and so well divided that they could allow many people, let's just say you and I, here's you and here's I, jumping into the same rack of equipment, and Amazon Web Services, AWS, has done such a great job with all of this stuff that you and I don't even know that we're running in that same rack. We're running, a server that, hosts a web. Matter of fact, can I pause for a moment and just go back to what I started this whole nugget with? I said, what is the cloud? Right? So I said there's a really simple answer to that, and the cloud is essentially something that's not here. I mean, if you want to boil it down, let's say you've got your house. If you store stuff in the cloud, that means it's not at your house. You got your company with 50 employees that come into the cubicle farm every single day, and you say, we're using cloud storage for our stuff. Does that mean it's not at your company? Where is it then? It's in a data center somewhere. It's a data center that is well connected with all of the stuff that you see here on the screen that holds all of the resources at one central place. As internet connections have gotten faster and faster and more reliable, people have started feeling better about putting their stuff off-site because it offers so much better economies of scale to where you don't have to build an infrastructure inside of every single one of your offices. You can just store it at one, aka the cloud, and voila, everybody is able to access it. So, all that being said, I'll come to this big last question. I want to address the elephant in the room right from the beginning. What about the trust factor? Well, what do you mean, Jeremy? What I mean is this. If you are an IT person, you are used to doing all of this stuff yourself. So if you've run your own data center, even if you've run your own small business, you're used to installing the routers and plugging in the switches, and there's a sense of comfort in connecting those cables and knowing, oh, my computer's offline. I know where to look because I plug this all together. I've got my own network diagram. I know what's connected to what. I know how the routers work. I've done the configuration. It's like blah, 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 blah. I know all this stuff. So there's a sense of comfort, just like driving that package to Detroit provides a sense of comfort to say, I'm going to drop this off. Now, why? Now, I know this is, I hesitate to say this because it might break down my analogy. Why do we trust the post office? Yes, I know, right? I don't trust the post. Well, yes, I know. But why do we not drive that package to Detroit, right? There has to be some sense of trust with the post office or whatever shipping company for you to deliver that package to them and say, I trust that you will get this to its destination. Why? Because they've proven themselves time and time again. Frankly, let me just say it right out. No matter where you are trusting somebody. No matter where you are. Can you agree with me on that? For instance, if you are building your own data center, you have internet connections coming in. The architects of those internet connections, service providers, aren't going to show you their infrastructure because it's their infrastructure. They're kind of like, well, tell you what, we will get you to the internet, and that's what we do. They might give you some high-level view, but they're not going to get too much because they don't want to expose their security. Okay, so let's bring this all back. What about the trust factor? With Amazon Web Services, there will be a step of faith. What I mean is Amazon is very secure and very, what's the best way I can say it? Very magical, I guess is the best word, into how they do things. For example, with Amazon Web Services, you'll say, well, I've got my data in 3 data centers. And somebody will say, oh, what data centers are those? And you go, they're somewhere. I don't know why this popped in my head, like Ace Ventura. Something's on the wing. It's like somewhere on the west coast of the United States. Actually, my other data center is over in Virginia, somewhere. And they go, somewhere? Well, what do you mean? Haven't you been there? No. What? Don't you know where it's at? No. Do you have like an aerial view on Google Maps of your data center? No. Actually, nobody knows where they're at. Amazon Web Services is that way. Now you talk to them, you're like, well, why don't you disclose where your data center's at? And Amazon Web Services it says, well, we're one of the biggest cloud companies in the world. Do you think we want the world knowing where all of our data centers are located? No, it's a level of security. Do you think we want people? Well, I mean, if you go to a normal data center, like I said, you've got Nabisco, Twizzler, and Kellogg's. You have IT people from those companies come in here. Why do you think there's metal bars? Why do you think there's metal bars in front of those servers? It's because strangers, odd people, unusual people, people standing next to you are walking in, and there's no telling what they might do. Some data centers offer completely enclosed racks where it's locked in the front because people are concerned that other people are going to come in and start pushing buttons and unplugging things. And I mean, so it's kind of creepy. No matter where you are, there's always a level of trust. When you're with Amazon Web Services, the reason that there's that big question of like, well, trust is because Amazon Web Services is so magical with all these things. You can be a network wizard without having to be super knowledgeable about network equipment. If you want to deploy a load balancer, I mean, in the real world, you've got to learn about, I'll just take Foundry. They're one of the distributors of load balancer or a free one like Zen Load Balancer. You got to be knowing Linux. You got to go to classes. You got to really understand how things are working. With Amazon Web Services, if you want a load balancer, you go next. Finish. Okay, woohoo! I've got a load balancer. Pick your servers. Okay, it's done. It's kind of magical, and you're like, well, I mean, even as an IT person myself, my natural intuition is like, well, how did that work? I mean, I'm how did they do that? And so you have to reach a point where you say, okay, I think I'm trusting Amazon Web Services in the same way I trust the post office. Why? Because the post office, for the last 30 years has gotten my packages to where they go. Now, has the post office ever had an issue? Well, sure. And let me ask that question. Has Amazon Web Services ever had an issue? Yes, they have. Just like every data center in the world has had an issue, Amazon Web Services has as well. And that's why, as we start getting into the design, they suggest that you use a fully distributed system, meaning you don't just put your stuff in one data center. You put your stuff in many data centers, which I'll tell you in the private world, if you were to say that, if you're doing it yourself, you're like, oh, well, multiple data centers, that means I have to all this times 2, times 3, however many data centers I'm going to be in, I'm going to have all of that infrastructure for that. With Amazon Web Services, click, click, click. Oh, there I am. I'm in another data center. So there is a big picture design. That's why I'm here talking to you, right? We have this whole series to talk about why we do that. So the trust factor should be built. Let me give you the strongest case for the trust factor. These are the case studies of Amazon Web Services that have been created of customers that are running on Amazon Web Services. Let me scroll down just a little bit. We've got big organizations, SAP, NASDAQ, the stock exchange. I mean, okay, that's just something right there. Okay, the stock exchange runs many of their services on Amazon Web Services. You see things like, startup companies, Social Vibe, Animoto, and as I scroll down, you start looking, you go, okay, well, it looks like we've got a couple. It's like a roller coaster. Whee! Up the hill. Whoa, oh, down the hill. Whee! So if you scroll through this list, I'm just like, da da da. These are full case studies. Can I stop right there? Full case studies. As you go, I just stopped randomly. Here's Jungle Disk. That's a huge organization. Dropbox, Netflix. Netflix. Hello, case study right there in itself of building a worldwide broadcasting company, movies on demand company on Amazon Web Services completely. PBS. I must be in the broadcasting section, obviously. Everybody in the United States knows PBS. Sesame Street as a kid. Yep, they're now on Amazon. So you just keep going through this. You find banks, you find government, you find, okay, if you were doing this 10 years ago, I would say, okay, hesitate. I don't know about, trusting that. I'm still going, Sega. I didn't even know that. So Sega, video game company. So there's, every it's like I don't want to I sound like a peer pressure kid when in school. Everybody's doing it, man. Just try it. But seriously, everybody's doing it. I'm an author. One of the publishing companies that I write for, Pearson, who is worldwide in their publishing. I was actually talking to their network engineer. He's like, we are going all Amazon Web Services. As a matter of fact, we have hired an entire division of IT people that do nothing but Amazon Web Services. They have, like, that is their IT expertise. So Amazon Web Services is a platform. I mean, I could keep going with my scroll, but you get the point, right? I'm not saying like, well, everybody else is doing it, you should trust them too. But the fact is, try it. Amazon makes it very easy to get started. We'll actually talk about that in just a couple nuggets forward in the series. And try it. Kick the tires on it. I mean, put a website up there. Just put your personal blog up on Amazon Web Services and watch. Yeah, I mean, start running small services on there. For instance, when I got started with Amazon, it was only as a DNS provider. That was how I first got started. I was like, yeah, well, I don't feel comfortable yet hosting some servers there, but you know what? I'm going to run DNS because for $1 a month, I get worldwide distributed DNS that is phenomenal in its performance. So I'll talk more about that later. So the trust factor is no matter what, you're trusting somebody. And can I throw us under the bus? I mean, us being IT people as well. We often trust ourselves. I'll fully admit, when you design your own data center, you come in with your own paradigm, your own thought process of like, okay, I think I know the best way to do this. I've designed many networks, or I've implemented many server farms. I think I know the best way to do it. And what I would say is, you probably do, as do I. I feel confident, implementing network. But when it gets into some areas, I'm shaky. Yeah, network is my expertise, but when it comes to servers and clustering and server farms and redundancy, I'm like, I would probably be on Experts Exchange posting, saying, I don't know quite the best way to do this. Any suggestions? Everybody comes in with their own paradigm. Amazon Web Services is coming at this with 10 years of experience and a whole squadron of IT people that are experts in their specific areas and have pooled all of that together to build this amazing infrastructure. Okay, last thing I want to leave you with is a side-by-side comparison of doing it yourself versus doing it with Amazon Web Services. Now, first of all, this isn't going to be what you think it is. I'm not just going to sit here and be like, there's no reason you do it yourself. You would always go Amazon Web Services. Why would you, why would you? I'm actually going to make a good case for both of them. Now, and you may even remember earlier in the series, I said, I have my own data center here in Phoenix, Arizona, for my organization. I shouldn't say like I own the data center, but we use a traditional data center to host all of our equipment. You might have stopped right there and be like, whoa, hold the train. Jeremy, eat your own dog food, right? Why aren't you using Amazon Web Services? Well, let me tell you why. That guy right there. You're like, what? You like massive upfront costs? No, but I've already paid them. Meaning, years ago, before I even knew Amazon Web Services was a viable solution, I built my own data center. I went out and bought the servers and switches and network equipment and firewalls and cabling and blah, 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 and did it all myself. So I've already made the investment in my organization to do that. Now, let me say this. I have begun moving our services over to Amazon Web Services as the time is right. Here's what I mean. Servers, switches, routers, firewalls all have a mean time between failure, right? They're going to die. That's just the fact of life. And eventually will have to be replaced and upgraded. So anytime I reach one of those places where I say, okay, server, SD core FS01 is needing to be replaced, is now a good time to move those services to Amazon Web Services. Let's sit down with an Excel spreadsheet and let's look at what Amazon Web Services is charging per hour, because they don't have any upfront costs for Amazon Web Services. It is always an hourly, or I'll say it's per X sort of charges. So per gigabyte of storage, per hour that it's running, per megabit per second of bandwidth that you use, or whatever rating that is sent. So no upfront cost, you pay as you go. Sometime if you've already made this massive investment over here, it doesn't make sense to start paying the pay as you go kind of pricing. And Amazon knows that. I mean, that's why they provide you a bajillion total cost of ownership, TCO tools right on their website to make sure that you're making the wise decision. It's kind of like, I don't know why this popped in my head, Costco. There's Costco. Hello, hello, check 1 2. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Sometimes I walk in circles, and the cord of my microphone just gets tangled around my waist. And anyway, so there's these Costco warehouses here in the United States, right? And you pay for a membership. I think it's like $80 a year or $50 a year, something to be able to shop there. And I was there at Costco, and the lady comes up and says, I was signing up, and she's like, "Well, do you want our executive membership?" And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" She's like, "Well, the percentage you get back." I mean, it's like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, I don't know. And she's like, "Tell you what, we have a policy that if at the end of the year, your executive membership isn't gaining you benefit, like you're not making more money back because you have an executive membership, we'll refund the price of the membership." And I looked at her, I was like, who does that? What kind of fool wouldn't sign up for an executive membership if it's like you can't lose kind of thing? And so, okay, now don't hear me wrong. Amazon Web Services isn't going to be like, yeah, go ahead oh my goodness, like I'm saying something. I'm like, actually, they do. I was going to say use us for a year and then we'll refund everything. But then I was like, you know what? Amazon Web Services does let you use them for a year for free. Now, I'll explain more on that in just a moment, but it's kind of like Amazon Web Services is like, yes, 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 we know that we have an amazing solution. Here's every tool that you need to show that you're going to save money doing this. Now you figure it out yourself, and tell you what, we'll throw a year free at you just to make sure that you're comfortable with everything. So anyway, it's I said when I started this that this isn't going to be a why would you not go Amazon Web Services, but here I am, right? So this may be a factor for you. You may have invested heavily in your current infrastructure, and it may not make sense from a cost perspective to just jump over there. Okay, so next thing, yourself. If you're doing it yourself, you need to have broad technical expertise always available. Like you have to have somebody who knows what they're doing, right? Whereas Amazon Web Services, you get to focus your technical expertise. A lot of the infrastructure stuff that typically require a guy or two or three IT people that manage all of that stuff now becomes, kind of like next finish. It just happens by itself. So you can focus your technical expertise. Not that you don't have to have some. I mean, it's the fact that we have this series is testimony to that. You have to have a technical expert, but they can focus their knowledge in the areas specific to what you do. Maybe you have more application developers that you can now afford because you don't have to employ a full-time network engineer because Amazon Web Services takes care of the networking for you. The do-it-yourself does give you a see-it, touch-it factor. You get to walk in, you see the blinking lights, you can plug and unplug cables, whereas Amazon Web Services does have limited knowledge of infrastructure locations. Matter of fact, they won't tell you where their data centers are located. You cannot walk in the door and watch the blinking lights or even know what server your stuff is hosted on. Matter of fact, if you shut down your servers, chances are when you power them back on, they're going to be in a completely different area of that data center. They'll run on different equipment and all that. So it's kind of like a, Wizard of Oz, don't look behind the curtain sort of feel with Amazon Web Services. But my point on that, what comes from the last slide, once they prove themselves enough, you have to say, okay, I think they know what they're doing. And you know what? The fact that I can't come and see it and touch it might give me a little comfort because if I can't do that, that means nobody else can. The Twizzler IT guy isn't going to be looking at my rack being like, ooh, I wonder what that button does. Let me push that. Do it yourself. You design it, you build it, support it. It's kind of your own world. Whereas Amazon Web Services has this shared support, partner relationship with Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is not a magic pill where you take it and all of a sudden all your IT issues go away. What they're saying is we will build this solid foundation that you build upon, right? Think of it like building a house. Somebody comes in and pours the concrete, the foundation of the home, but then somebody else puts the sticks up, the frame of the house, puts up the drywall, all that kind of stuff. And so think of you like that. Like Amazon has poured the concrete, and you can rest assured that they've done that well. That's the trust factor. But the shared support means, okay, now you build upon that. If you bring up a Windows Server operating system, it's your responsibility to patch that thing. Amazon Web Services is not going to say, oh, well, actually, we run blanket antivirus and firewall services, and I'm biting my tongue as I say firewall services, but for instance, you can click a button and allow the internet full access to your Windows Server. And if you've ever done that, you know about how long the Windows servers last before they are hacked and destroyed and used for every illicit use under the sun. So shared support means that you partner with Amazon to trust their foundation that you're building upon. Last one, I'm going to let this be a leading into the next nugget. What you doing it yourself means is scaling in big steps, whereas Amazon uses this term called elastic scaling. I'll define this one, and then I'll leave elastic scaling to the upcoming nuggets. Big steps means, okay, I've got 5 servers in my rack, right? And I'm looking at my usage. It looks like CPUs at 50% steady. Memory utilization is pretty high. I need to add 4 more servers because we are growing. There's a big push on our marketing department. A lot of people are coming to our services. I'm going to add 4 more so that we have the capacity. So if I were to look at this on a graph, it's kind of like your capacity was here and bam, up to here, right? So this was our 5 servers. This is our 9 servers of the amount of capacity that we have. The actual need for your capacity is something like this. Yeah, maybe it's going up, and this is time on the bottom, right? So what? Let me ask you just a basic question. What's all this? What's all that right there? Waste. That is wasted resources that are not there. So you can that's how you typically, and you have to scale it if you're doing it yourself, is in big steps. Whereas Amazon Web Services, and you probably have an idea of where I'm going to go with that, uses this term called elastic scaling. More on that as we move into the future nuggets. At the risk of sounding crazy, I have to say this. I am thrilled to be talking to you right now. But my excitement comes for you to see what I've seen with Amazon Web Services. I mean, let me put it this way. Remember the Apple iPhone? Remember, it's still there. But remember when it first came out? It was the first smartphone that was in its caliber around the world. And I was one of the first to get an Apple iPhone. And I had to be their best salesperson, not because I was a good salesperson, but the thing just sold itself. I'd be like, look at this, showing my friend. I'm like, I'm online on a web, and they're like, seriously, that's a real website. I'm like, yeah, on my phone, and there it is, right there. I can check my email, in this, and it's really easy. And I mean, probably half my friends went out and bought Apple iPhones just because I'm like, look at what's possible with this thing. And in the same way, that's where I am right now with Amazon Web Services. I'm like, I'm thrilled to show you the possibilities so that you can take it and be like, I'm not buying this because of what you said, Jeremy. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, why would I not do this? Like, it's one of those things like the Apple iPhone once was when it first came out. It's like, this is a no-brainer. Like, why would I not do this for my organization? It just doesn't make sense. So with all that being said, we have seen what the cloud is, cloud technology. How did Amazon.com get there into Amazon Web Services? We've seen infrastructure as the service, mainly the mindset. The rest of the series is really going to be breaking down the specifics of that. And then we've looked at doing it yourself versus using Amazon Web Services, kind of a compare and contrast between the two. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.